Begin. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ربي زدني علما. اللهم فقهنا في الدين. اللهم إني أسألك علما نافعا وعملا متقبلا ورزقا طيبا. اللهم يسر ولا تؤسر وتمم بالخير. Inshallah, we will review a bit of the previous ayat, and we'll continue from there, inshallah. Going back to the last ayah that we covered, I hope you guys can, are you able to see my screen? Someone can respond on the Zoom. Okay. And you can see the Quran, right? Just confirming. Okay, inshallah. Inshallah, let's go back to ayah 261. That's the one that we covered last time. Ayah 261, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoken a lot about spending in his way. So مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله. And we learned that في سبيل الله, in the way of Allah, means spending for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just a bit of review. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the example of those who spend in his way is like كمثل حبة, is like a grain. سبع سنابل في سنبلة مئة حبة. That this grain grows 7 spikes, and each spike gives 100 grains. So that means whatever comes out of this plant, it multiplies. And that's what the example is telling us. Wallahu yudaifu liman yasha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala multiplies his reward for whoever he wills. Wallahu wasi'un alim. Of course, because Allah is all encompassing, he is very vast in what he can give. He can give a lot more than we can imagine, and he is knowing how someone spends. Why is an example given here? Just kind of reviewing, is because when a person, an example is given here for us to understand that when a person has connection with the Quran versus when a person does not have that connection with the Quran, a person thinks differently, right? When you understand, the power of Allah, and you look at the growing of the plant, you're going to think differently versus when you're just looking at the biological aspect of, okay, how does this plant grow? What comes out of it? How does the working of the plant work? How long does it take? You go on the technical things, but when you look at it from this perspective, you think about it differently. Now, fi sabilillah, spending in the way of Allah, is what? Spending in places that were halal, spending where there's no bid'ah or innovation involved. Innovation in deen is where something new is brought in deen, something that is not part of Quran and Sunnah, and not spending on wasteful things. So these were some conditions when we were spending in the way of Allah. كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة. So when we talk about the dividing and the multiplying of the money, how does the money have to be? The money needs to be pure. That means the money that we're spending needs to come from a halal source. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah is tayyib, he's pure, and he only accepts that which is pure. And we also learn from another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, none gives charity from that which is good. Which means it's halal. It's coming from halal places. For Allah only accepts that which is good, except that the merciful takes it with his right hand. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes it willingly. And this is for us to know that we are going to get the reward because it's come from halal sources. Even if it's a date, it is nurtured in the hand of Allah until it becomes greater than a mountain. So that one date that we gave, that one seed that we sow, turns into a garden on the day of judgment, turns into that mountain on the day of judgment, as one of you nurtures his young horse or camel. How does Allah return it? Wallahu yudaifu liman yasha. Allah multiplies it for whoever he wills. Looking at what does Allah multiply a person's reward? A person's reward is multiplied based on a person's spirit. How willingly were they giving this charity? What was their intention when they were giving this charity? How much effort did this person put to give this charity? Um, so, with this example, how we see the seed grow and the sprouts come out physically in front of us in this world, of a plant, for example, like that, $1 that we spend in the way of Allah increases like that in terms of reward. So if you actually look, like, if you know, sometimes you look at these videos where it's a quick view of, sometimes people post themselves from childhood to when they're older, and you see the growth of that person and how they change. So if you watch a video of a plant, on that speed, on that quick speed where, it's put into the ground and how it grows, imagine when you look at that, you're able to visualize maybe how your charity grows, how your wealth grows when you spend it in the way of Allah. So Allah multiplies for people based on their intentions. So if your intention was really good when you spent that money, you don't know how far the impacts would have gone of that charity that you gave. And what are some categories that we can spend on? This is mentioned in the previous ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah. There is وَلِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ. That means your parents, your close relatives, وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ وَالْيَتَامَى, the orphans, وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, the needy, and وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ, the travelers. These are some categories that a person can spend on to gain reward. So when you're spending, of course, a person's focus should not only be spending on a person's worldly gains, buying someone, which we do, which is good for reward, buying someone food, buying someone, just clothes, doing different things for people. When we're spending, a person's focus should be that whatever I'm spending goes a long way, right? An intelligent person always thinks long term. So when spending happens, when charity happens, it should be for the benefit of a person's akhirah. Because when a person spends for the benefit of a person's akhirah, we don't even know how far our reward goes and how long, will we keep getting that reward for. So when you spend on causes of spreading the deen, for example, or for the success of deen, such causes are ongoing causes. And even when a person leaves the world, when they're not here anymore, these are the causes that are going to benefit a person even in their graves. So, I mentioned a hadith last time before, concluding our ayat briefly. I paraphrased it that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned in one of his hadith, if parents or people who left the world were asked, "What do you want us to do for you?" they would say, "Please give in charity for us, on our behalf." So imagine when you're doing it right now, how much this can benefit you. And of course, when we talk about spending, sometimes a person cannot do the physical spending. So how can we support someone? So amwal, or wealth, can be any sort of risk or provision that Allah has given you. So along with money, it could be a car that a person has. It could be a house that you own. So how can you benefit someone with these things that you have? The example of a car that we spoke about last time was giving someone a ride. If it's getting to a class, a place of ilm, a place of knowledge, if you're the one facilitating someone to get to that place, you get the reward for it as well. And as long as you're doing it, anything that that person learns and implements in their life, you get the reward for that as well. They get the reward for it, and you also get the reward for it. And then, of course, your house. If there is a wabna sabil, if there is a traveler, someone that you can, someone who's looking for a place that feels like home, and you give them your home for some time. You let them live at your place for some time. This is also providing from your wealth, providing from the risk that Allah has given you. So in any way that you're aiding someone, you're helping someone, giving whatever you can in the way of Allah. So now we learned about different Sahabas in the previous class who gave selflessly. Because when you give for deen, when a person gives for the sake of Allah, when we say fi sabilillah, it means it sincerely needs to be given only for Allah. And there are different examples that we spoke about last time. One of them that we spoke about in detail was Abdurrahman bin Auf. He was a companion who had accepted Islam 2 days after Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. He was one of the richest men in Medina, and he had the biggest contribution to the deen. So, which means that if there was battles, he had contributed to those battles. If it was after the passing of the wives, the after passing of the Prophet, he supported their wives, and and provided income, provided money for their life, for their household. If the wives were traveling for Hajj, he was responsible for their travel. So he took responsibility. Um, he even distributed 4,000 dinars to the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mother because they were poor; they didn't have a lot. And when he, in his will, before he died, he had written that he wanted to give 400 dinars to every Muslim that had a contribution in Battle of Badr who was alive. Um, and because he was so giving and so supportive to the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Aisha radiallahu anha, she had given him a dua. She gave him a dua saying, "I wish that he gets to drink from Salsabil of paradise." That means from the sweet, spring of paradise. I hope he gets to drink from it. He gets to taste from it because of his generosity for the sake of Deen. And we spoke about when he left, what he gave so much, so he also left inheritance for the wives of the Prophet along. So I'm reviewing, which is why I'm not going in a lot of detail. And despite of giving from his inheritance to the wives of the Prophet, he also had some left to give to his own children. And what did he have left? And I wanted to just expand a bit on this: 1,000 camels, 400 horses, 300 cows. So this is equal to, if we think of it in the worldly perspective, the most expensive cars a person can have today. So thinking about it, who today is so charitable that they're going to give, let's say, a BMW, like 100 BMWs to someone, or 400 Teslas to someone? No one's going to do that, right? People have, alhamdulillah, sometimes people are very established, very well said, but no one is ready to spend. No one has that spirit of spending. And what builds the spirit of spending in a person? Quran. When a person connects themselves with the Quran, automatically it makes them charitable. We're going to learn in the coming ayat that a person who spends, spending is a depiction of a good akhlaq, and it also develops good akhlaq, good character in a person, because now you're giving someone, you are generous, versus a person who does not want to give, versus a person who shows stinginess. So we learn from this, Abdurrahman ibn Auf gave a lot. He even had gold and silver left from his inheritance that were to be given to his children. So we learn through his example that he gave a lot. He had a lot of contribution to the deen of Allah, but his giving didn't reduce him. Because if he gave so much money in his lifetime, how come he still had so much to give, even closer to his death? As a person, if the Sahabas looked at him, he lived a very simple life, despite of having so much. That means he gave all of it to the service of deen and service of people for the sake of Allah. And whatever he gave, of course, because you get, Wallahu yudha'ifu liman yasha. Allah multiplies it. So whatever he gave, Allah returned to him. And he wasn't one of those that would show off or remind people of his favors. I also did want to mention that he was also from the Ashra Mubashara, the 10 chosen one who were promised Jannah. So that means because of all of his generosity and his service to Deen, um, he was one of the 10 promised to enter in Jannah. He was given that special rank. And like this, not only him, but all the Sahabas spent from their wealth to strengthen the Deen. What was the focus of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? That we want to strengthen the Deen. And because of the contribution of these people of the past, Deen did not only spread, religion did not only spread to Mecca and Medina. It wasn't limited to that. It spread all across the world, in the East and the West, which is why we have Islam today. So this is something we really need to think about, that because of the contribution of these people of the past, how much they contributed, how much they spent for the service of Deen, that today we have what we have. We have the blessing of Deen because of them. But even in Muslim countries today, we see people have enough. They have enough to spend on themselves. We want the best, best things for our children. In like the materialistic, point of view of it, we want the best things, the best food, the best clothing. We want the best things, but we forget that we're only thinking about ourselves. The spending only limits to ourselves. No one thinks that it's our responsibility as a Muslim to spend on strengthening the Deen. If knowledge is being taught somewhere, could be any place. Knowledge is being taught somewhere. What should a person think? That this is good knowledge is coming from here. I need to strengthen the Deen, so this knowledge can get to all people around the world, to different demographics of the world, or let's say different demographic of Canada. So even though we don't know how much of our reward would be multiplied, we can't see it, right? This was an example that was given. But Wallahu wasi'un alim. Allah is wasi'. Allah has so much to give. So that means even if Allah gave everything to a person, nothing would reduce from his treasures. That means this is why we need to spend. That Allah is so vast, He's so bountiful that He might give everything, but He still has so much more. So imagine when a person continues to give and give, how much would you get in return? And how much reward would you get as well? Inshallah, we'll move on to Ayah 262. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah, ثُمَّ لَا يُتْبِعُونَ مَا أَنْفَقُوا مَنًّا وَلَا أَذًى. That when we spend, we do not follow the charity with reminders of generosity, man, which is reminders of generosity, and adha, which is hurtful words. So after giving someone, let's say we loaned someone money, what are we asked to not do? Not remind someone of our favor. Even though it's a favor of Allah that we're able to spend on someone, so it's not really a favor from our side, but not remind someone that I did this for you, and not hurting people after giving them. So which means not sitting and discussing with people that on this and this day, on such and such day, I helped this person in, this way. I spent so and so on this person on this day. Because of course, a person loves to talk about the good that they've done. Everyone likes to talk about themselves. But this kind of charity, this kind of, spending or generosity, we're asked to not, show the whole world. So whatever this person gives, no one knows who it reached. So if you're spending, if you're giving, sometimes you could give to people that are very close to you. So spending in a way, giving in a way that no one knows where it's gone, where it has reached. Because of course, Allah sees your intention. Maybe, it's something that you've mentioned to someone for a specific reason. But maybe you've also mentioned it to people because you want people to know. You want people to be aware. Remember, this is embarrassment for someone you've helped, where you're going around and telling people, look, I helped such and such person. I donated such and such amount to, such organization. And when you have given someone money, when you have spent on someone, when you've tried to help someone, not changing your behavior towards that person either. So these are all conditions that are put for us when we are spending in the way of Allah. So, of course, spending itself might not be easy, but then Allah is putting another condition that when you're spending, it should solely be done for Allah. When it is solely done for Allah, then you're not going to have man, you're not going to remind people of your generosity, and you're not going to have hurtful comments for people after. Because that is against reward. If a person wants reward, this is against reward. So if you've done for Allah, why would you remind someone of your favor or of your generosity? Why would you have misconduct or misbehave with someone? Why would you be rude with someone? But if you're in a situation, so Allah has also explained to us, if a person is in a situation where someone who's been generous to us, someone who's given us something, keeps reminding us of their generosity. That remember on such and such day I helped you. What should this person do? The first thing this person can do is remain silent. Don't react. Of course, we've taken that assistance from someone, but at the same time, maybe we're not in the state to return back to them. So don't react. Leave it on Allah for that moment. Or the second thing is, if you can't take it, if you can't take how they're reacting, how they're behaving, try to return it back to them. Try to return their money. We're even told that after giving someone, if a person is feeling obliged, because sometimes, maybe we've given to someone who's very kind person. So every time, they see you and, you meet them and you greet them, they don't remember anything except the loan that you've given them, the money that you've loaned them. So we're even said not to, by any gesture, by any speech, by any expression, to even show them anything that makes them feel like, makes them feel bad for taking that money or for taking that help. We're even told that if you think sometimes what happens is someone is, let's say helped you out in some way, and they keep sending you, like, even if someone just sends you a salam text message or maybe some reminder, in your mind you're going to think, maybe they're just trying to remind me of this thing that I've taken from them. So we're even told, don't do that. Don't have such kind of greeting or thing where you think that someone might be feeling bad about taking that money from you. So Quran is making it very clear for us, in clear words, telling us that we're not supposed to do any of this. When you've done something, do it and forget that you've done it. Even if it's something that someone is supposed to return to you, but don't, make that person feel bad about it. So not through our tongues or our actions or through anything. We are discouraged from reminding the other person of this. And maybe this is because, you may not have, if a person is doing it, maybe it's because you may not have given for the sake of Allah. And how can a person stop themselves from reminding, right? We're learning stop yourself, knowing or thinking that whenever we give to Allah. We're not giving to that person. Allah has given us the opportunity. We're blessed that Allah gave us the opportunity to help someone, to support someone. And for such a person, who does this, who does it with this kind of sincerity, does not remind people, does not hurt people or say any hurtful words to people after helping, after supporting, for such people, the reward is with Allah. And there is no fear and sadness for such person, right? So if a person gives, if we think about it, if a person does not know about this ayah, does not know much about the Quran, they help someone. This person is going to be in consistent fear. When will I get this money back? I really need it. What will I do? And might also experience sadness. This is too much. My financial burden is a lot, and might go into sadness and fear. But when a person knows that I have given, through some way, Allah will return to me. So Allah is saying for such person, there is no fear or sadness. Allah will remove it from such person's heart. But not everyone is like that. There's a lot of people who might give, and they might also remind others of their giving. And we're told to not show through our actions or our tongue, say it through our speech, but we're also told to not think about it. When you're consistently thinking about something, what happens? It is going to come on your tongue. It is going to show in your behavior. So we're told to not even think about that charity we've given in the way of Allah. And if such thoughts come to our mind, how do we get rid of the whispers of shaitan? Remind yourself, I did not give to this person, but I gave to Allah. And we should be grateful to this person that they gave us the opportunity, that we can facilitate them. And it is a favor upon us. If there were people who wanted to help, let's say we're learning these ayat, people might think, I want to support someone, I want to help a cause. People might be thinking various things. Let's say we want to do all of this, but there was no one that we could help. How would a person earn the reward? How would we increase our ranks in the sight of Allah? So this is a blessing for us that Allah gives us these opportunities. There might be a possibility that we might not even get any of these opportunities. We might have a lot, but we don't have anyone to give. And we should be grateful to Allah that He put it in our hearts and made us of those who can give. Right? So it is a big blessing of Allah as well that when we are of the giving hand, we are of someone who can give. And when a person gives in such a way, you have no expectation from the other person. And let's say if we have expectation from the other person, what can a person provide us with? Appreciation, gratitude, maybe something in return? Versus when we spend in the way of Allah, when we spend for Allah, if we compare that, there's no comparison. Allah says that $1 turns into a mountain. But that one appreciation that a person will give, like, oh, you've been so kind, you've been so nice, how far will that go? It's just for that time. It will just make us feel good, like how a lot of things make us feel good temporarily in the world. And it will wear off. It will fade away. So when we're spending, there's two kinds of situation. Allah is watching me and people are watching me. So there's two mindsets when people are spending. And we need to see what is our mindset when we're spending. So when we're sowing that seed mentioned in the previous ayat, either we can put it in the ground thinking Allah is watching me, or we can just play around with it until someone sees us and then we sow it into the ground. And what's the difference between that? When we sow it into the ground and Allah is watching us, Allah can see through the depths of everything. So how deep rooted that plant is, how far it will grow, Allah is aware. A person cannot know that. We just see as humans what's on the apparent. And we also will see. This is a promise of Allah that a person will also see the reward of that good in the world as well. Of that spending, of that contribution, of that charity, you will see the reward of it in the world as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Hal jaza'ul ihsani illa al ihsan. If you do good, do you think you will get anything but good? So the reward of good is going to be good in this world and in the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Ayah 263, قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ. So now in the same context, when a person is spending, right, along with the spending and giving, we're also encouraged to have kind words and be forgiving. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذَى. That means when your good word and forgiveness is better than charity. It's better than charity in what sense? In the case that you're going to remind someone of your generosity with their hurtful words. Wallahu ghaniyun halim. Allah is self-sufficient and most sparing. So kind speech and forgiveness are better than charity followed by harm or hurtful words. So let's try to understand this ayah. If someone comes to you, but you don't have enough to, let's say, give them, a person might automatically feel embarrassed or irritated. Why has this person even asked me? I don't even have anything right now in me. And in that case, what's going to happen? An automatic reaction is you might get rude. You might ask that person to leave. I'm sorry, I don't have right now. I cannot help you. That might be our first reaction, right? Our instant reaction. Or let's say we might not say much, but we might have a really irritated expression on our face. Or maybe our tone would change while talking to them. So this is not going to do anything, right? This might just get out our frustration, but it's going to disturb the other person, the one who's come to us asking for assistance, asking for help. Yes, Sister Taqwa, I think we will take questions at the end, if that's okay. Qawlu ma'ruf. So it is to talk to someone. What is qawlu ma'ruf? So qawlu ma'ruf is kind speech, good speech. So it is to talk to someone with a smile. It is to talk to someone in a respectful way and in a gentle manner. So how can we respond? Like thinking of ways you can respond to someone, and this is for yourself, right? Thinking of how can you respond to someone who says that, who comes to you, but you don't have in that moment. So maybe saying things like, okay, inshallah, I'm working really hard. I have this business or my work, and whatever comes my way, I don't have what you're asking for right now, but may Allah put barakah in my risk and in my wealth, and whatever comes my way is yours. Saying it in a very polite way, that whatever is mine is yours. So inshallah, as I can, I will support you, I will help you. So saying something nice and in a simple way to convey that you don't have right now. So Deen also teaches us to be religion teaches us to be very clear in our speech. Because the clearer you are, the better it is, making it less complicated. It can also be the other way. So this is, you can get rude to someone while they come to ask, but you don't have. Sometimes the person who asks you can be rude. Maybe they're asking you in a very rude manner. Maybe you've given to them and they're very rude to you. They're very nice, when they want that support, and then when you've done that help, you've given them the contribution, they're very rude. They feel entitled, and that can upset you. So in that case, Allah is saying wa maghfiratun. So forgive. In the case that of course you're the one who supported that person, you've tried to help them, and in return they're misbehaving with you, they're behaving that way with you. So in that case, Allah is asking us to forgive. Wa maghfiratun. We learn in Surah Shu'ara, وَلَمَنْ صَبَرَ وَغَفَرَ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ لَمِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. that whoever is patient and forgives, indeed, that is of all matters requiring determination. That means you need azam, you need strength to do that. It's not easy. It's not easy to be patient, and it's not easy to forgive. But when something is difficult, the more reward you have of it. And we also learn, فَمَنْ عَفَى وَأَصْلَحَ فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. And whoever pardons and does aslaha, makes reconciliation, reconciles with people, the ajr or the reward for that person is only from Allah. So if we forgive people and we make amends with someone who's trying to do that, then the reward that you expect is only from Allah. That's the greatest reward a person can get. And if we're going to give and hurt someone after because we don't have, then we're told, then just say no, I don't have, but with kind words, but in a gentle manner, but with the best mannerism. And what is a general conversation that we have as human beings? Sometimes, let's say we've helped someone, but we don't see the return, which is why a person should not expect the return from a person, right? So we don't see the kind of return we wanted. So what happens? You say, I did so much for such and such person. See what they did to me. See how they treated me. And sometimes we do it for within families. It doesn't have to be someone who's a stranger, but within families. This is where Allah is asking us to make amends and forgive and let go. So good word, better conduct, forgiveness is better than sadaqah, where after we're going to say something bad to someone. And wallahu ghaniyun halim, Allah is free of need and forbearing. And good word, qawlu ma'ruf, is compared to ice in the world. So when ice falls or melts, how does it melt? Really gently, softly. And after melting, of course, this is easy to envision and visualize because in Canada, this is common. And when it melts, it falls onto the ground, and let's say it gets cold again. That ice stays firm where it falls. It's going to stay there all winter. And it stays in that place for a long time. And after it melts, let's say summer is coming along, it absorbs in the ground. And that ground becomes very fertile and it's ready to grow. So when having any conversations, this is a tip for us, that when having any conversation where we're talking to someone, maybe we're giving nasiha, we're giving advice, especially let's say with children, right? Because it's hard sometimes to, deal with the children, to tell them that this is not good or this is not right. So how should it be done? How should advice be given? Not only to children, this could mean to anyone. When you're giving advice, like this ice would melt slowly. It takes its time, little by little. So when you're giving advice, it should be done gently, in a soft manner. Of course, if you're going to get really loud, yell at someone, and tell someone to do something, it's not going to have the same impact. So gently and little by little. Why little by little? Because when you keep reminding someone, and this is how the Quran works as well. This is why the Quran was not revealed all at once. It was revealed bit by bit. Because it sticks. When you get something little by little, repeatedly, it's going to stick. It's going to penetrate and it's going to stay. Of course, on the contrary, if we want to give advice, right, we mean well, but we yell. We get really loud. That advice, that good thing that we were about to say, it comes like a fast wind, which blows away the leaves, and it leaves. Right? A wind that comes, it's not going to stay forever. It's just going to come, blow everything, and go away. It's going to, if you think about wind, it will create a havoc. Winds cause the trees to fall, leaves to blow away. So it's a mess, right? That's what is going to happen when we're talking to someone, giving advice, saying something to someone, where we do it in by yelling or by getting loud, and do it all at once. Prophet ﷺ, when he used to speak, his speech was very concise. So for even giving advice, our speech should be as concise as possible, so that the person sitting in front of us can actually, it can stick with them. It can actually sink in. And of course, as we're coming to the conclusion of this ayah, this also does not mean that we use this ayah as an excuse, saying, well, this means I'm not going to give any charity because I have no control over myself. So this is not what we're learning. We learn from a hadith. Abu Musa reported, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, charity is a duty upon every Muslim. Which means if we use this and say, well, I get very rude, I get very mean, I'm not going to give charity. We're told it is a duty upon every Muslim to give in charity. The Sahabas, they said, what if he has nothing? The Prophet said, then he should work with his hands to benefit himself and give in charity. So if a person does not have, what should he do? Work hard, earn, and then give in charity. They said, what if he cannot do so? The Prophet said, then he should help a depressed, needy person. That means, let's say you don't have that financial, stability to help to do something for someone, to give in charity, then what? Then help a person. If there's a needy person that needs any of your support, help them. If there's someone who's feeling down, help them. Because when you're doing this requires you to be physically there as a person, to be present. This is not going to require you finances. They said, what if he cannot do so? So if a person cannot even help the depressed and the needy, the Prophet said, then he should enjoin goodness and virtue. So that means even if you can't even do that, then what should a person do? Then do good. Then make sure you're just doing good deeds. That is your sadaqah. They said, what if he cannot do so? The Prophet said, then he should refrain from evil, for that will be his charity. So if a person is not able to enjoin good, encourage people to do good, then what should a person do? They should stay away from evil. And that person staying away from evil is his charity. That means religion and deen is very simple. Whatever a person can do on their part, they're asked to do. No one is told, the Sahabas asked the question so many times. They're not told, well, just don't do it. There's no point in this hadith where the Prophet says, don't do it. There is something that every person can do. That means there's some contribution that every person can make to the deen. And from another hadith we learn, Adi ibn Hatim reported, the Prophet ﷺ said, guard yourself against the hellfire, even with half of a date in charity. If one cannot find it, then with a kind word. So how can we save ourselves from hellfire? Even with half a date, giving half a date to someone, to support them, to help them, or even in charity, that's going to help you. That's charity, that's sadaqah. But if a person cannot even find half a date, then do so. Do that charity, but by just saying kind words. So we're encouraged to give regardless. And giving shows good akhlaq. Bukhul or stinginess shows bad akhlaq. So remember, if we want to improve our akhlaq and what we do, then it is important to give. Right? Sometimes we want to work on ourselves as a person. So we connect ourselves to the Quran. And then we think, well, I'm praying as well now. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So Allah is showing us ways that we can improve ourselves as a believer. And one of the best ways to improve yourself as a believer is to give, right? That is why we had Sahabas who were so generous, showing us, because of course, and even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was the most generous. At times, he would have nothing left. Him and his wife would have nothing left for themselves to eat. So to this point, that means he was so generous. Anything he could give, he would give. And these were the people of the greatest akhlaq because they possess this character, this quality. So inshallah, I thought we would be able to cover the next ayah as well. But inshallah, there is a parable, an example given in the next ayah. We will go over it next class, inshallah. Um, I do want to mention the same things as last time, that we do have ongoing charity happening for Gaza, with everything that's happening there. Anything that you can give to support, this is supporting our people, right? Anything that you can give to support them, I would encourage that you do that. I will put the email in the chat. So even if we spoke about half a date, so any contribution that a person can make to support them, is going to go a long way. Because remember, a lot of the times what happens is we are not able to. We think of ways, how can we support the people? We see them suffering, right? So this is a way of supporting them. If there is something that we can contribute, and maybe through our contribution, something gets to them, this is our way, when we're asked on the day of judgment, about, the people suffering, right? Let's say the people of Palestine. What are we going to say to Allah? So this is our way to support them and to tell Allah that we tried. This is what we could do sitting here. And then along with that, we do have we do have our upcoming brothers and sisters halakha. So the brothers halakha is the one that's going to be coming up soon. So if there is any kind of contribution or donation, if anyone would want to make, please do. I'm just going to put the email in the chat. And of course, with the Gaza, we are with sending to Gaza, we are collaborating with Human Concern. So I do want to mention that. And our brother's halakha is coming up very soon towards the end of November. So anything that you can put right now is going to help with organizing the event, inshallah. Remember, it's an event. There is it's a gathering, it's bonding for the brothers, but it's also knowledge, that is shared there. So it's your contribution to knowledge. And inshallah, we're going to be starting a cause for Winter Drive in Pakistan. We do some projects there. We did the very recent one was the Ramadan packages that we did there, where we made, they're called the Ramadan ration packages, which is enough. We tried to make it enough for their, suhoor, iftar, for the month of Ramadan. So funds are collected here. For that, I was actually physically present in Pakistan myself, as I was in Pakistan at that time. So, it was, alhamdulillah, a really good experience to actually be able to give those packages to the, needy around, as there's a lot of, a lot of that around us, but we don't think about it. And this winter drive is going to be for clothing. There's a lot of winter drives that happen here in Canada. But this one specifically, we're going to be buying jackets, blankets, because I think there are certain people who live in tents, because I physically went and saw it. So people living in tents, of course, when it's cold, imagine how when we're here in, insulated home and wearing warm clothes and thick blankets, people staying in tents, how they might be feeling. And sweaters. So these kind of things, inshallah, we're going to be providing. The donation will go to a different email. So we will be sharing a flyer for that, but I just wanted to introduce the cause, inshallah. So, anything that we can do, keep that in your mind. We are doing the ayahs of charity and sadaqah. Anything a person can give for any cause, I would say, is a contribution that you're making to deen. And with that, I would like to take reflections. So anyone who would like to share, inshallah, we can, yes, Sister Taqwa.
I don't, I have a question. Um, so you were talking about generosity, and I was wondering,
Mhm.
this is a situation that happened to me actually. I have a friend, and she approached me and asked me for some money. And at that current moment, I didn't have any money on me, so I said, I don't have any money on me, I'm sorry. But it's also I felt a little odd because this friend of friend I don't talk to. We're not very close. And it's very normal in my friend group to casually just ask for money, and we don't really think about it. We don't always offer, we don't really care to repay each other because we do it out of generosity, honestly, because we know that in the end they will do the return too. But I don't know this friend, right? So I said no, but deep down I felt bad, of course, because I didn't have $3. I didn't have the money that she needed, right? But I also felt used because I didn't know this girl really well. Like I wasn't close to her, like I was close to my other friends, right? So it felt like, oh, why would I give, like I thought to my money, like I thought to myself, because I was like I will generously will give her, but I don't, maybe it's just my thinking, but I felt like I was getting used in some way, shape, or form, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
I,
I don't, you know,
Yeah, so I get your concern here. I would say, well, generally speaking, we're told in the Quran that if someone comes to us, this is mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'un, that if someone comes to us, asks us for help, to not refuse it. So if, let's say, this person was a stranger, coming to you once, um, I would say it's still okay. I know you were thinking about it probably because your conscious insight was like, well, maybe I should have done it. I should, should I've done it or not done it? It's okay if that in that moment, you thought, I don't have what she requires. And you like in this case that we learned, it's okay to, kindly, apologize and be like, I don't have. So maybe not thinking about it too much because if you kindly apologize, it's okay. But generally speaking, let's say if we have. So I would say if a person is doing it once, in your situation, giving it maybe twice, giving it, then third time, you can politely say no. If a person feels like I'm being used, which is, of course, religion doesn't allow us to just, be a doormat and people to walk over us at the same time. So if you feel in a situation, okay, I'm being used, this is not right. It's done once, twice, I need to stop this. So, maybe the third time, not being rude, but in a very polite way, be like, hey, I don't have actually, I don't get that much. So, I don't carry that much on me anymore, or something like that, where you're politely refusing and you're also telling the other person, I don't have, and I might not have in the future, let's say, in this case. So I hope that if you have any more questions, you can let me know.
I do have another one. This is when it comes when someone gets me something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as I said, in my friend group, it's really normal to just buy some, like let's just say we're out and we're short on money. I'm a high schooler, so it's obvious.
Yeah.
Um, Once in a while we're short on money and another friend pitches in and pays for you, right? Or maybe end up paying for your whole meal.
Mhm.
It's what happens. But I find it sometimes hard because I'm like, okay, I do say thank you. I'm really grateful for that I have generous friends, but I have like a hard time to actually show my gratitude by repaying them. Like I don't know it would be the perfect opportunity to pay them back. It's not like um, it's not like I don't pay for them too. Like I pay for them sometimes too, but like maybe unconsciously I forget and it slips out of my mind. But sometimes I feel like if I did had money on me at that current moment, I would be able to pay them. But sometimes I don't, and I'd kind of like feel guilty, but they insist and they're like, okay, you can pay for me. I'm fine with it. But sometimes I try to think, oh, what could I do? But what's the most appropriate way to repay back somebody?
Well, let's say someone has been doing this for you maybe like a few times. If you think you don't have like a physical like some amount present on yourself, this the smallest thing could be if you have it. I don't know how it works for like your lunch or things like that. So if you have like a little snack on you or something like that, maybe just giving it to them, maybe leaving a thank you note on their locker or anything like that. Along with that, I would say giving a gift is like the best thing a person can do. So let's say if you think that you're consistently forgetting it, so just making a conscious effort and thinking, well, I want to maybe like on this Monday that I go back to school, before that, I need to get something for this friend. So it could be anything that you want to get for this friend. And if you can't repay them in just, paying for their food, giving them a gift, giving gifts is the best way to show gratitude and increase love between people. So I would say that's the simplest way to do it. And of course, just, like I said, put like a little sticky note and be like, thank you, give your friend a hug. And I feel like that's the best. Like you said, you can't always, express the gratitude as you want to. So I would say the simplest way is to write it down. And if you can give them a gift, that's a very good way to just, show your gratitude in return. Inshallah. So if anyone would like to share any reflections, um, Audrika, if you want to share something you learned. Audrika, we can't hear you. I see you, but Rucha, if you want to share.
Um, I learned the importance of like generosity in Islam and how important it is to give sadaqah and give zakah and um I also like learned about the instance where like Prophet ﷺ like would be so generous to the point where even if he didn't have enough like food for himself, he would still like give it, which just shows how like generous we should be.
Mhm.
So
Yes, and remembering that generosity in return has a lot of benefits for us, improving our akhlaq. When we're giving, giving charity means removing of calamities. So if we're going through multiple challenges and difficulties in life, it's the best way to remove any kind of calamities that come our way. So charity has a lot of its benefits in the world and the hereafter, and keeping that in mind, inshallah. So if anyone else would like to share, otherwise we'll conclude. All right, so we will conclude here. And for the winter drive, inshallah, I will share the email with the flyer, inshallah, and we will share any details that we can on the group, on the tafsir group. Jazakallahu khairan to everyone. See you all next Wednesday. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.